Welcome everyone to the American Civil War Museum's Homefront Education Series, where we bring the stories of the Civil War and our collection straight to you at home. Now we're continuing with our White House of the Confederacy tour, where we're talking with Anna Edwards about the enslaved staff here at the house. So Anna, we are currently in the nursery, right? This is a big and important space, especially for the enslaved staff. So why is that?
Well, this is where the children are, right? So the care and keeping of the children of the Davis family is obviously a high priority. Mrs. Davis' first responsibility is to be First Lady. She's got political, social duties, right? So she needs her staff to look after the children and, again, help that work smoothly with the running of the house as a whole.
Right.
So we've got 4 kids here.
Right, 4 kids at any one point in time during the war, and so that's a lot to take care of. I can't imagine, and especially when they're not your children, you might have children of your own.
That's right.
And you're helping these people raise their own children.
That's right.
And so I'm sure there are a number of people who are involved in that.
That's right. We know that, for example, there's a woman named Catherine. She's an Irish immigrant. She's been hired to actually look after the children. So her official role is nanny.
Right.
But we've also got Mrs. Davis's sort of right-hand woman, her lady's maid. Her name is Betsy. Betsy helps with the children. There are 3 children when they arrived. Mrs. Davis was pregnant, so the 4th child was born when they got here. But Jeff is a 4-year-old, right? So he's a little guy, and he's being raised around military operations. Right. So it's not hard to understand that he's going to sound like the men he is around.
Right.
Talking.
But of course, if they have 3 children already, it does mean that there are already people who have been taking care of the children. And you had mentioned that one, right? Betsy?
Betsy, yeah. Betsy is a woman who was probably born on the plantation in Mississippi. We know she was raised there. It means she spent all of her adult life with the Davis family, serving their needs, right? So she's lady's maid to Mrs. Davis. She's going to serve as an assistant to helping with the children as well. Wow.
Yeah, and so Betsy is here now, coming from the plantation, now up here to Richmond.
Yeah.
And so what does she do when she's here?
Well, she appears to be fulfilling all of her normal duties, right? But one of the things that becomes clear, right about the same time that Henry made his escape, the 2 who escaped before him were Betsy and her husband Jim. Right? And so if you think about it, Jim is also someone who came from the plantation in Mississippi. They get here to Richmond, and during the war they begin to recognize opportunity. So apparently they began to plan.
Right.
So they get here in the summer of 1861, but in January, the winter, dead of winter, right, of 1864, they make their escape.
I mean, that's an incredible thing to do, especially because this is not an easy winter in 1864. As I understand it, the snows are pretty harsh during that time. And so choosing to take that moment to seize your own freedom requires a lot of courage too.
Courage and organization, because it means that you are going to have to know where you are going to be. You know, I'm going to leave here at this time, and by the time the sun sets, I'm going to be at this other place. And we don't know a lot of those details about Betsy and Jim, but we do know they were successful. We know that they made it all the way to Fort Monroe.
Yeah. And
because of that, they were protected by the U.S. Army. And so that's really an important thing to understand, that somebody like that, and I have guests ask this question too, it's like, but they live like this. They live in the executive mansion. So was life that awful? Well, we'll just go back to the fact that they were enslaved, and that should answer the question, right? But it also probably meant that they had unique opportunity, right? To hear what was going on, to know about the movements, the regulations, where the guard was. All of those kinds of things were probably bits of information that they could acquire because they were such high-ranking servants in the household. So enslaved, and yet second to Mrs. Davis, second to Mr. Davis.
And now, so Betsy and Jim have left. But now you have these holes, these gaps that need to be filled.
Yeah,
so who comes in and fills them now?
That's right. So January, we have Betsy and Jim leave. Henry leaves a couple weeks later. Spencer, we know, takes the place of Henry downstairs. There is a woman named Ellen Barnes. Ellen Barnes is another person who, like Henry, was hired from a local owner, and she has just begun her contract in January. And for some reason, Mrs. Davis decides that she is the appropriate person to move into this highly trusted position, lady's maid, right? So she steps into that role.
Yeah. And so Ellen is now in that lady's maid role. But what is Ellen doing? Well, she's only got about, what, a year left before the Davis family leaves.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what is she doing during that time, and what happens to her afterwards?
Yeah, it is interesting because one, we have to also remember nobody knows that the war is going to end in a year, right? So she's moved into this position. Apparently it's working out. And so that means that she's probably going to be treated a little bit better, maybe be given more responsibility at this time. So not only is she lady's maid, she is also going to act as a nanny, right, to the children at a certain point. She is referred to as Mammy Nellie.
Interesting.
And that's written on the back of a photograph.
Huh.
So it's really interesting how they understand what the roles mean, and that there are titles that go along with that help you understand the change in status, right?
Right.
But Ellen is also someone who, again, maybe because they get along, maybe because, she is someone for whom this is a stable situation, nobody knows what's happening, it's a very chaotic world. So she's with the family right on through the end. And so when they leave, finally, in the spring of 1865, she's with them all the way until they are captured by the U.S. Army.
Right, and so Ellen, as Spencer makes his departure around Danville, Ellen keeps on going. She goes with them even farther than that. In Georgia is where they ultimately end up being taken in by the United States Army. And so after that, Ellen has to make some other decisions, right?
She does, yeah.
Because where the U.S. Army goes, freedom follows. And so Ellen is now ostensibly free. So with that freedom, she's able to now make the kind of choices that maybe that Spencer didn't have initially, and that Henry definitely didn't have when he decided to make his own way to freedom. But now she has this choice.
She's with them when they are captured. She goes with them, and she is taken all the way, again, back to Fort Monroe, right? And so she apparently, at this point, again, she's got this relationship with the Davises. Maybe hard for us to understand, but there is a moment while she's at Fort Monroe when she says, okay, this is it, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I am now free. Now, she got some encouragement from her husband.
Right.
Because this is, of course, when we find out that she has a husband.
Right.
There is a Mr. In this. And so he is encouraging her to take her freedom. He wants, like, we got it now, we can.
Right.
So what happens is she's actually interviewed by a reporter while they're still at Fort Monroe, and that person actually asks her, if things were different, would you return to bonded service with Mrs. Davis?
And what does Ellen say?
Ellen says, no, thank you.
She knows what the situation is.
That's right, that's right. She says, Mrs. Davis was good to me, but I do not want to be a slave in the South. I will not return. Right? And I think that's a really important thing to note, because freedom may be guaranteed where the U.S. Army is, but slavery is not over. That doesn't happen until the constitutional amendments take place, and that's going to be a year, and then a couple more years, and then a couple more years, right? So she's really drawing her own line in the sand at that moment. So I think it's a really compelling thing to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a complex nature of relationships that are happening everywhere. And knowing Ellen is making that very firm, very committed statement too is very important to know.
That's right. And when you think about the fact that they continue their relationship with the Davises, at least by letter, throughout the rest of Ellen's life. But she's very clear that she is a Black woman who is going to be free.
Absolutely. Well, this has been excellent. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today, Anna, that we're able to go through the entire house is to really talk about the lives and the situation that these people are living through. And so I was glad that you all got to join us as well. And as we close out today's Homefront Education series, we encourage you to keep on thinking and keep on learning, and we'll see you next time.